That Alabama law adds to the list of other restrictive abortion measures passed in states recently, which is fueling speculation that this could be the setup for conservative Supreme Court justices to overturn Roe versus Wade, that landmark case that ultimately legalized abortion. Here to break this down, Washington Post Supreme Court reporter Robert Barnes. Robert, first of all, thanks for being with us tonight.
My pleasure.
It seems likely at this point that the court will take up one of these cases. So is there any indication right now how likely it may be that the Supreme Court would overturn Roe versus Wade?
I think it's very hard to predict what it would do. Such an important landmark ruling. The court doesn't overrule such things lightly. I think it's also important to point out that the court likes to move incrementally, especially in a controversial, sensitive subject such as this one. And the court has lots of cases already lined up before this one or some of the others in which it could either narrow abortion rights or give us an indication of how far states may go in protecting or restricting abortion rights.
And, here in Texas, we're very familiar with the law that was passed several years ago in terms of restricting abortion rights that then the Supreme Court ultimately overturned. And the real difference between then and now, right, is the makeup of the court. How significant is that?
That's correct. It's very significant, and it'll be interesting to see what the court does with that. That was a 5-3 decision with Justice Anthony Kennedy in the majority. He has retired now, of course. There are two new justices who have not ruled on this issue before, nominated by President Trump. And so there's a redo of that case coming up. Louisiana has a law that's virtually identical to Texas's law. A lower court upheld that law. The Supreme Court, by a narrow margin, has refused to let it go into effect right now, but it's almost certain that that case will be on the court's docket next term.
Is there any timeline that we should be looking at? I know you said that they have so many cases already lined up, but when it comes to looking at Roe versus Wade or any of these other cases challenging abortion laws that have been passed, is there any timeline for when the Supreme Court might look at those?
Well, I think that next term, as I said, I think it will have to do the Louisiana case. There are some restrictions from Indiana that the court has been considering whether to review. It's been doing it for months now. I would expect that we'll find out about those. A challenge to something like this Alabama law or perhaps the Georgia law, those can take a year or two before they reach the Supreme Court. And so, it's not going to be an overnight thing.
All right, so plenty more to watch. Robert Barnes from the Washington Post, thanks so much for being with us.